Good morning, thriving warriors and those who wish they were. And Alexa, good morning. Alexa, good morning. Okay, well, Alexa's having one of those mornings again. It is Thursday.
Today is Thursday, August 18th. The time is 6:14 a.m.
Alexa, what's the weather like? Alexa, what's the weather forecast? Well, there's clouds in the sky.
Around. It's 83 degrees Fahrenheit with partly cloudy skies.
Okay. So some problems there for Alexa, but okay, good. So we're back. And let's see, we have Diana on and we have Justin on. Good morning, people. I will say good morning. All righty then. Okay, so we're at 1:57 into it. And let's talk about when you're green, what? When you're green, what does that mean? Oh, he's green. What does that mean? You're just starting, just learning, don't really know what you're doing. When you're green, ... Oh, let me give an introduction. Once again, here we are at Thriving Warriors Career Services, where our job is to help you get from where you are from point A to point B, where point B is someplace better. We do it through many ways, but what we're doing here is leaving little breadcrumbs that you can easily follow. Just a little video that people can watch throughout the day, during the day, in the morning, hopefully, and get a little bit of knowledge, ponder it, try to incorporate it into your modus operandi. Let's see, like wet behind the ears. Okay, green is like being wet behind the ears, right? When you're green, what? So Ray Kroc, who at one time I believe was the wealthiest man in the United States, founder of what we know as McDonald's, was fond of saying, when you're green, you're growing. When you're green, you're growing. And he used plants as a metaphor. When plants are green, they're growing. And then they turn yellow, and then they turn brown as they start withering and dying. So he believed in always being green. It's an interesting thing because it starts out with one metaphor and then he turns it into a factual thing. So the metaphor is when you're green, you're going to make mistakes. You don't really know what you're doing. Then he does the Larry David shift. But when you're green, you're growing. So when you don't know what you're doing, you're growing, right? You're growing in your skills of that job, that task. Should you be worried about that? Should you be afraid? Should you be frustrated? Well, you shouldn't be frustrated that you're growing. You might be a little bit frustrated that you're not growing as quickly as you should, but things do take time. Okay. When you're green, you're growing. And now let's just talk about that for a second. What should the environment be like when you're growing? Should it be germ, bug, virus free? Should it be, we're going to remove all obstacles from you? Should it be that? Charlene, should it be that? When you're green, in order for you to grow the best way possible, we are going to remove all obstacles from you. Diana says safe and healthy. Okay, but should we remove all obstacles? Should we create the perfect growing conditions? In other words, the exact right amount of sunlight, the exact right amount of elements, whatever. And kind of the answer is what they teach you, at least in the law school. I went to the second year students who are taught that most sentences start with the words, it depends. Okay, it depends on what you're trying to do. For purposes of life, I would say that obstacles are important, hardships are important. You have to grow through them. So Diana is saying you go through the struggle. Right. So we don't want them perfect because life is not perfect. We can't control outside life. And if you can't handle, if a tree has never experienced wind and it's grown up in a perfect windless climate with just the right amount of sunlight and the perfect soil, everything was easy for it, how hardy will that plant be? Is it hardy or hardy? Hearty or hardy? I think it's hearty. How hearty will that plant be? Versus it's used to getting blown back and forth and around, and it's got to dig through the soil to get the right roots, and it has to develop its version of an immune system, if there is such a thing, and struggle. Which one? Okay, probably that other one, right? Okay, now what if you were raising cattle? Do you want them in a nice penned-in area where everything's perfect and they have the right nutrients? Or would you rather have range fed where they're out foraging in a natural environment? They're eating good food, but they have to do things. Let's say you're the cow. What would your life like? What would you like your life to be? I wrote a short story about this once, about a cow that was in this beautiful pasture and it was taken care of, and it was sort of actually the master of the farmer because the farmer did everything to make the cow healthy and happy. And the cow just had to be there and kind of nudge the owner along. And then one day, outside the fence, outside the pasture, up approaches an old, mangy-ish, scarred steer. Let's say it's a steer, cow, whatever, cattle, chattel cattle. And this thing is pretty banged up, but it has stories to tell. It actually lived a life. It actually fought the good fight. And which would you prefer? I don't know that there's a correct answer to this. It's kind of like it reveals who you are to yourself. And perhaps it's I would love to have a servant. The farmer is the servant to tend to my every need. And all I have to do is be out here in the pasture, my cow-sized earbuds in, listening to whatever it is that I want to listen to, and my life is great. But when you think about it, what kind of life was that? Versus the other cow that's banged up and scarred up and not, kind of like skin and bones. Kind of like it had to earn its living every day, scratching through the soil. It lived. The other one lived vicariously. Okay, we're at 10:17. Let's talk about Kelly McGonigal, a TED Talk from yesterday for those people who watched it. What did Kelly McGonigal tell us about stress? Stress doesn't kill you. Stress is the body's natural response to certain situations. It makes us sharper. It raises our heartbeat, puts more hormones and neurotransmitters in our system so we can respond. Our brain is moving at a faster pace. The downside, as Simon Sinek made clear in his talk about neurotransmitters and hormones, is that when stress is in your body, other things shut off. And as he says, your fingernails really don't need to grow when you're in a stressful situation. All your energy is focused on the things that you need. So stress is not good in long-term, large doses. And for Kelly McGonigal, if we learn to embrace stress, stress is our body's natural reaction to certain situations. We have to learn how to turn it off. Burp, push the off button, not the, oops, I keep hitting the replay button. I keep having this go through my brain of these stressful things, the things that are bothering me. Oops, I hit the replay button again. Oops, I hit the replay button again. And 6 hours later, you still are feeling the effects of stress. Your body's immune system is compromised, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Stress is not your enemy. Fear of stress is the enemy. Okay, then we had Jordan Peterson. We talked about every job has an IQ range. You want your IQ to be at 75%, so you need to know your IQ, and you need to know the IQ range of the job you're looking for. And we can provide the information on both of those things. Today's talk is Johan Hari. Everything you think you know about addiction is wrong. Fear is a liar. I don't know about that. I don't know what that means. That's a little bit too highfalutin, too esoteric for me. My juice is ready in the hall next to the fridge. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Justin, for that. And let's see. Johan Hari. Everything you think you know about addiction is wrong. People who have substance abuse problems, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you watch this, because what do you find? Somebody chip in, somebody pitch in. What do you find? What does Johan Hari say is the root of addiction and the solution? Okay, let's see what Seth Godin has to say to us today. When they don't know what they're talking about, ... People tend to do one of two things: not talk or talk. Both are a problem. If we're facing an important issue at work, at school, or in our community, our instinct is to let others who are better informed speak up, which prevents people from voting on a school budget or even volunteering to speak in class. We need their input and their solutions, but without insight and understanding, folks understandably hold back. At the same time, alas, it's apparently become a badge of honor to speak up loudly and often when one has no knowledge, has done no homework, and has no insight. That's not helpful, but there it is. The all-volunteer Carbon Almanac is a #1 bestseller precisely because it gives people a chance to know what they're talking about. It's an almanac with more than 1,000 sources, so you can look up anything that seems surprising. And because it's inexpensive and easy to share, you can give one to someone else who will benefit from it even more than you. Wow, I think we're going to add this to our book list in the magazine. It's helpful to know, and it's helpful to talk about what you know. That's how we make things better. It's helpful to know, and it's helpful to talk about what you know. Okay, so if you know something and you don't talk about it, that's pretty much the same as far as other people are concerned. It's pretty much the same as not knowing. The problem is when people who don't know what they're talking about talk. What? And when people who do know what they're talking about don't speak up. You have to have the courage of your convictions. Okay, thank you once again to Seth Godin. All righty then. What happened? Oh, there we are. Okay. Fear is a liar. Isolation, lack of stimulation, stimuli. Okay, good. So we are at 1550. And I'm going to say, see, I didn't even have to say it. I just had to do that. And maybe one day I'll get to that. But right now it's that. Boom. What? Welcome to Pahrump, Kentucky. The 630 caravan, gravel caravan. Okay. Who knew? We did, because it happens every day. And what? Yesterday was the only easy day. Let's make something happen today. Don't compare yourself to who you were. Don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. We put Jeannie in an uncomfortable situation yesterday when what? When what? Well, she went to the Oasis. They stayed at the Oasis only to find, oh, no sheets, no towels, no hot water. Wow, what are we, dumb? No, sorry, Jeannie. But it's an adventure. Let's think of it as like camping inside of a house rather than camping outside, homelessness. So be more samurai. Be more samurai. Focus on what you're doing. Do the best you can in all things, given the amount of time and resources you have. Just focus. And at 1733, a long one today, I will say, cut, boop, cut. Hey, cut.